Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Feel like the audience is in for a major treat. If you've already been missing Judd's camp notes because mandatory mini camp is over, they canceled the OTAs this week, right? Like they've gotten enough practice, so they just canceled the OTAs.
Yeah, they said no access, and if they do, it's for younger players, but I don't think they're doing it at all. So
yeah, I mean, feels like they're cutting corners a little bit to me.
Packers aren't doing this.
Packers
are
are
hard at
out
work
there.
today.
Are the
Hard at
Eagles
work.
out there?
Oh yeah.
Buffalo Bills. Oh, they
The
canceled
Buffalo
their
Bills, maybe.
OTAs?
Who? You know what? Perhaps not.
Oh.
It's like let's go to Buffalo.
We'll see how the cancellation of the last 3 OTAs impacts the Vikings long term. But Judd's Camp Notes has compiled everything he has studied with his own 2 eyes, his notebook, his multicolored pen, and his field glasses into the 1.0 53-man roster projection today. We're going to get into that, presented by Quick Trip. Let's start our week the right way here at Quick Trip, Judd.
So I'm about to rank football players essentially for an entire roster 1 through 53. But guess what? When I rank convenience stores, I don't go through 53. I don't go through 5. I just go to 1. And that, of course, is our friends at Quick Trip. Because look at the options here. If you are watching this, look at all of the things that you can get at Quick Trip, the delicious food. And you're saying right now, Sports Dad, this is a grocery store. Clearly, it's a grocery store. How is it a convenience store? And that's the beauty of Quick Trip. They make your life so simple. Great service. Friendly. We are talking about a place that takes great pride in serving you, and that's why you should make Quick Trip your one stop. Also, quality gasoline guarantee. All of those things. 1 through 53. I can give you 53 reasons why Quick Trip is fantastic.
Actually, let's do that first. Let's do that. We'll start at 53,
Okay,
and
let's
then we'll
start
get
with
to
the
the 53-man
chicken
roster.
one. Glazers. I mean, this is not hard.
The service, the people behind the counter. That's right. They're good
They're
at
all
small
there.
talk. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, where do you want to start here? 53-man roster 1.0.
Let's start on the offensive end. And I will break it down here as far as there are 24 offensive players, 26 defensive players, and 3 special teamers.
Ooh, I feel like in previous iterations you've gone 25, 25, and 3.
I tried to keep this as true to the 53-man breakdown as the Vikings were a season ago.
Okay.
Coming into when they made their final cuts. So I juggled things a little bit here, but I think the fundamental numbers on offense and defense are the same as what we saw going into week 1 against the Giants of 2024. But let's start at QB because it's really not surprising or sexy as of right now. JJ McCarthy, Sam Howell, Brett Rippon all make the roster. That makes Max Brosmer the cut. Now, I do think that Brosmer winds up spending the season on the Vikings practice squad. I guess the wild card here is, what does Howell show in training camp? Does Howell firmly take hold of the number 2 position and prove he belongs there? Do the Vikings say, you know what, there might be better options? But as of now, in the 1.0, gentlemen, as we head into the off-season, the last gasp of it at least, McCarthy, Howell, Rippon.
How would you, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here, Judd's Camp Notes, but how would you compare that quarterback room with like the last 10 years worth of quarterback rooms?
Well, let's just go back to the quarterback rooms with O'Connell, because I feel like that's the key thing. Now, if you recall, Nick Mullins was actually acquired, I want to say, at the end of training camp in 2022, because Kellen Mond and Sean Mannion, I believe, were the quarterbacks, and they were awful in training camp. But
Kirk was an established veteran.
Right, but again, at the time, O'Connell said, I need somebody that can play if Kirk gets hurt. And if you go back to 23, in fairness to Mullins, who, just to be very clear, I did not trust, but in fairness to him, he was hurt when Kirk suffered the Achilles injury. The reason why Jared Hall started that game in Atlanta that then Josh Dobbs came into was because Mullins was still recovering from, I believe it was a back injury that he had suffered in training camp. But the Howell thing, I don't know on the comparison because he has started a bunch of games. He's been around. To me, it just comes down to, I actually think he can make the throws as far as shall we say, layering the ball in. My concerns on Howell
I'll give you the football.
are twofold. Decision making, but I'll give him time on that because this is a new offense to him. The other one, though, is arm strength. And that has nothing to do, like, you're not going to improve that at his point now or at the point that he has in his career. So I think it's a good room. I think part of the thing, too, here is, and it's why Brett Rippon, in my opinion, is going to stick. I think they have found a guy that they love in that room. I think Brett Rippon loves ball. And I'll continue to say, I think he's a coach. I think he could be a coach. I think he loves ball. And so that room, I think, is solid. Howell is the wild card. They love Brosmer, not surprisingly. They have raved about his smarts, his intelligence, all that good stuff. But I just think he's probably destined for a practice squad spot.
I think, and I asked the question about the quality of that QB room relative to the last 5 or 10 years, because I think it is the least certain we've been about that room in 15 years. We're all optimistic about JJ McCarthy. The Vikings clearly are too, because they've had several different chances to throw some more money at the problem. They could have thrown more money at Darnold. They could have thrown more money at Daniel Jones. They probably could have thrown $5 million at Aaron Rodgers, and he would have gladly come to Minnesota. So they're confident enough in McCarthy to have him be the 1A guy in that room. But it's interesting. You bring up Nick Mullins. To this point in Sam Howell's career, he is a poor man's Nick Mullins. If you look at the side-by-side in their careers. Mm-hmm. So, and some of the numbers are really fast. Now, Mullins is a few years older. He's like 5 years older. And he was never given the runway to start a full 17-game season like Howell a couple years ago. But both guys, so Nick Mullins, 20 career starts. Sam Howell, 18. Both have 5 wins, so 5-15 when the teams are when Nick Mullins starts. Sam Howell's teams are 5-13 when he starts. Wow. Both have about the same interception percentage, like I think it's 3.6% of throws for Sam Howell or interceptions. It's like 3.9% for Mullins. The thing that Nick Mullins is much better at than Sam Howell is sack avoidance. He only takes a sack on 5.5% of dropbacks. Nick Mullins, over 10%, one of the worst in the NFL. So to this point, your quarterback room is one of the top QB prospects in the league, but who is coming off an injury and has never done this before, and a poor man's Nick Mullins as his QB2.
Yep. But that's why the Howell position becomes even more important now because of that. Like, I'm fine. I think taking the shot, I guess, if we want to call it that, on McCarthy is the exact right move. But yeah, that's so the position, like with Kirk, you sort of felt like, oh, okay, you need an upgrade here. But when they went out at that time in 2022, I believe it was, and got Mullins, we were all pretty like, okay, that's a good move. I think it becomes more important now that you're backup, because JJ is going to get the chance and deserves it. So, but if you watch Howell play in training camp, you're like, oh, he is a complete disaster. That's where, like, I would be even more tempted, just in case, to have a backup plan that would be better than Howell. Because as we've talked about, there is no option of, oh, McCarthy either stinks, which I don't expect, or gets hurt, which could happen. And now we're stuck with Sam Howell, and we're going to stink. Oh, well.
Yeah, well,
and
also, I think now that Howell has had a month or so, or 2 months since the draft to soak in the offense, the playbook, some QB rehab school, instructional things.
Yep.
I think and based on his age, if he was 32, it's like, all right, you kind of are who you are. But he's 25. He's still pretty young. Mm-hmm. I still think there's a chance that he could grow into this role, and especially with these weapons around, that he would, if they did have to call on him, he would have a much better situation than what was around him in Washington in 2023. Sure. So I guess what I'm saying is I think there's potential for Sam Howell to be a rich man's Nick Mullins if he stays the course in QB rehab school. But it's an interesting room to keep an eye on.
To the running back spot. So coming out of training camp last season, they kept 2. So I will keep 2. And that's a slam dunk. Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason make the cut. 3 players do not make the cut. Xavier Scott, Trey Stewart, and Ty Chandler. I don't see him I don't think they're going to keep Chandler. I don't think they're going to keep 3 for the sake of keeping 3. And spoiler alert, the reason why they only kept 2 running backs was because they also kept CJ Ham, who they always keep. So I have them keeping Ham at fullback. So there's technically 3 guys in the backfield here, but Ty Chandler, I guess, is the head.
Oh no.
Oh, no.
There he goes.
I thought he was glitching. I thought it was my end that when he was first starting his running back room, but now we actually just have a frozen. Actually, it's a great screenshot of Judd.
Let's definitely screenshot this. Well, he was having some pregame internet problems too, so we'll put him in timeout. Real quick on that running back room. So if I remember correctly last year, he's right. They kept 2 going into like the first round of cuts or the final cuts. They kept 2, but then didn't they pretty quickly bring back what's his name? He was with Miami.
Miles Gaskin.
Miles Gaskin. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Or we know what he might have been practice squad and then elevated like 3 different times. But then it wasn't all that long after that, like a couple weeks or a few weeks into the season, that they said, okay, Ty Chandler, we don't trust you anymore. So let's trade for our guy Cam Akers for like the 3rd time.
Yeah. And it feels like too with CJ Ham, he has become basically like their new Marcus Sherrills of every training camp. We're like, are we going to cut this guy? And he just ends up sticking around in a completely different position. And Sherrills was a defensive back and more of a punt and kick returner. But it feels like with CJ Ham, we're in the same bin of, hey, is this guy actually going to make the 53? It's like, yes, he's very, very useful. So, and Mason and Aaron Jones, I mean, I'm excited to see how that tandem works. I'm curious to see what the splits look like once the season starts. But I do feel a lot better about that room because of the acquisition of Mason.
Yeah. By the way, Judd, I have another running back take to piggyback off you. Update from Judd here. I just lost power. Incredible. So we'll see if Judd's camp notes can get resourceful here and maybe find the link on his phone, Patrick Royce style, and grind out the rest of this 53-man roster projection. Now, this is the key. We make fun of him because he does the handwritten notes.
Yep.
But this is a case where the only way that this episode can continue and finish the 53 is if he has the hard copy handwritten version of the 53.
100%.
And then the phone, maybe on LTE. But I would say of that group, the cuts. So Ty Chandler, I think, kind of is what it is at this point. Mm-hmm. He's had many chances. The one that I'm the most interested in that room is the Jacksonville State undrafted free agent running back, Trey Stewart, who we talked about kind of through the lead-up process and then when they actually brought him in as a UDFA. And again, it's Jacksonville State. It's Conference USA, so it's not like dominating the SEC or the ACC or something. But he did run for 1,600 yards, 25 touchdowns, 5.9 yards per attempt, and he averaged kind of a small sample size. He only caught 18 passes, but he averaged 13 yards per reception out of the backfield. So as we put together our annual Mr. Mankato odds and make our picks, just a guy to keep an eye on there is probably Trey Stewart.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of fell in love with Dwayne McBride a couple years ago. I know that was a big guy on Thor's board. He had a huge career at UAB and then kind of just basically never materialized into an NFL player, essentially. But, yeah, I'm curious to see kind of how the rest of the room shakes out, if anyone does push anyone for an extra spot. But, yeah, Mason and Aaron Jones, I feel really good about this tandem going into 2025.
Yeah. Okay, while we check in on our guy Judd here and hopefully get to the rest of this 53-man roster projection, why don't we shout out Northern Soda Company, Dex, keeping us hydrated here during these summer months.
My Sunday Purple. You can pick up some Northern Soda. You can pick up your purple and your root beer and all the plenty of great flavors at your local grocery stores like Hy-Vee, Target, Cub, etc. You can also go to their tap room in New Brighton. That's right. They have a soda tap house. In fact, we have a little announcement we'll make on the Twin Show regarding Northern Soda and us going out there too. So go find Northern Soda in your local grocery stores. Go check out their tap room. That's northernsoda.com.
Also, the other kind of football is coming to town here. The 2025 quarterfinals of the CONCACAF Gold Cup are coming to U.S. Bank Stadium Sunday, June 29th. This is the premier national team tournament of the summer, and you'll get to see 2 epic matches with just 1 ticket. Watch some of the best stars from across the region battle it out in this high-stakes Gold Cup quarterfinal doubleheader. Maybe we can even get Judd's camp notes for the CONCACAF Gold Cup. That'd be kind of fun. Sunday, June 29th at U.S. Bank Stadium. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com. Ticketmaster.com. And you can also check out goldcup.org/tickets. He did find his way in here, I think, via phone.
But then he, I think, pulled the Patrick Royce and removed.
He went to a different
went to a different screen. So let's see if we can let's pop him in here and see if Judd, can you hear us?
Can hear you fine. Can you see me?
No, you've pulled the Royce, and I think you may have.
Oh, yeah. I know what's wrong. Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can
hear you.
Is there like a camera button on there?
No. I tried to call my roster up for the 53.
Oh, so we were wondering,
So that's
listen,
what I'm trying to do.
we do poke at you for, and there now he Patrick Royce.
Yep. This is great.
Judd versus Technological Gremlins. Top 5 episode all time of Purple Daily.
We're in Burlingame house.
Dark house.
I'm
right
roaming
now.
through my dark house. I'm going into the kitchen because this has never happened. Oh,
So
boy.
wait, is all power out in your house?
Yeah.
And
All
by the way,
power
the storms aren't even supposed to get here for like 5 more hours. What's going to happen at like 2:30 today?
My light behind me, if you can still hear me, went off. And so I'm like, oh, my light must have gone out. This sucks. And then I'm like, every light, oh my gosh. And then I walked out here to my TV where Get Up continually plays because Stella loves it. And it was off. And now she's asleep. She don't care. But somebody.
This is also the first time that any of us have ever seen a different part of Judd's house.
Yeah.
All we get to see is
Well, you're in the
home
kitchen right now.
office. Yeah.
Oh, you're in the
Very excited.
kitchen right now. It's very nice here. Look at that little painting. That's Dawn's, not mine. Obviously, I've tried to put up sports there. I got vetoed. But yeah, I've been silenced.
So
My
real
ego-
quick on the logistics of the rest of this exercise here, we oftentimes poke at the sports dad for his old school way of taking notes. Like, oh man, Judd, those handwritten notes are great, but here's like 5 other ways you could take the notes digitally. Do you have a handwritten hard copy of the 53-man roster projection, or did we bully you in? Oh no.
It's on my computer only. Now, here's the thing is I can continue if somebody can go to Vikings.com and call up the roster and then do it by position. If you just hit the position tab, it will.
Okay. I've got that exact sort up right now. Yeah.
So I gave
And so
you-
basically, if we give you the positions, you will
I'll
remember who you
Yes.
cut.
Wow.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So I can do this still because I'm a professional. I'm more interested in why when it's sunny outside for the first time in how many days, why my power is out. Like I thought it would go out when it was raining continually. Not now.
So listen, I'll throw out, let's go to the wide receiver group next year as we continue this exercise.
Yeah, because we are fighting against the battery now, which by the way is fully charged. Because I am super highly
Me too.
attentive to that. But we are going, this is going to be a race.
I think you'll be fine for the rest of this episode. But listen,
yeah.
we've already cleared a couple hurdles just to get the third position group here. So, okay, here are the wide receivers on the 90-man. You got Jordan Addison, Silas Bolden. I think this is in alphabetical order.
Yep. Can we go player by player? Because I'm not going to recall. So I can tell you who I kept.
Yeah.
Read them.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that I'm just going to assume that JA, JJ, and
Naylor
Naylor is for sure in, right? Okay.
Yep.
Let's create some drama here. Rondale Moore
begins the season on the PUP list.
Okay.
He is coming off, I don't know the extent of the injury, the knee injury he suffered. I think it was in training camp last year with the Falcons, but it was severe. He is not practicing yet at all. So I think he is destined to be a PUP guy, and I would not be surprised if he is a PUP guy to start the regular season, which would cost him the first 4 games, but would stash him on the roster, and he wouldn't count against the 53.
Ty Felton.
Ty Felton makes it, 3rd round pick. No way he gets cut. At Ty Felton, and I also have my surprises, Silas Bolden, because he's got return ability. And if you look beyond that, unless somebody in camp is great, the rest of the names about to run through are not exactly, oh my God, you can't cut him. So yeah, so my surprise is Silas Bolden. Ty Felton as a 3rd round pick, I think, makes the roster unless he's just awful. But he's a 3rd round pick. He could probably be awful and still make it.
Yeah. Silas Bolden, by the way, 5'8", 160 out of Texas, undrafted free agent. Super interesting.
Yep.
And then so the other guys here, so in alphabetical order, Dante Fleming, Lucky Jackson, Jeshwan Jones, Tim Jones, Robert Lewis, and Miles Price and Thayer Thomas. Any of those guys?
Okay. Yeah, I got one. I forgot one. Tim Jones, who was a free agent signed from Jacksonville, who is going to be the special teams Trent Sherfield replacement. He can play offensively, but if you look at his snaps, like he is a special teams ace. So if I'm not mistaken, that is 6 wide receivers kept, and Tim Jones is kept in a role where he'll get some snaps, but he will play a ton on special teams. So I believe I kept 6 receivers. I would know for sure if my power hadn't gone out.
Judd's a warrior, man. This is just...
It's grinding.
Man,
you got to power through. You
Pun
got to overcome it.
Okay, let's go.
Power through. Yeah.
Let's go to the tight ends here. So I'm assuming TJ Hawkinson, Josh Oliver just signed an extension. So those guys are in. And that leaves Gavin Bartholomew out of Pitt, Bryson Nesbitt, undrafted free agent out of North Carolina, and then Giovanni Ricci, who they just added last week to the 90-man, and Ben Urosek from Georgia.
Yes. So on my initial roster, I have Gavin Bartholomew, who, as you said, was a 6th-round pick out of Pittsburgh in April. I have him being kept and taking the Johnny Munt spot. Now, it's interesting. I don't know what's wrong, but he barely or did not participate in the off-season program. So they didn't. We didn't find out what was wrong there. But I'm curious. I'm guessing he is going to be prepared for the start of training camp. My wild card there to compete with Bartholomew is Urosek, who played at Georgia, who has similar size and weight. But one of those 2 guys is going to be the Johnny Munt replacement. And as of now, I've got it being the draft pick, Gavin Bartholomew.
And then Urosek perhaps to the practice squad, right?
Yeah.
By the way, Urosek with that number 48, a sneaky sort of H-back, almost like fullback, tight end hybrid number there, number 48, which I love. And a glorious mustache in his profile picture.
Just like Declan. Just like Declan.
Yeah.
Glorious stash.
The stashes are back. So, okay, let's go to I'm going to kind of break up offensive line into some groups here. So, offensive tackles. You probably had it all offensive line, but they list them by position here. So, just the tackles.
That's fine. Yep, that's perfect.
Christian Darrisaw. So, we'll go offensive line here. Darrisaw, is he pupping? Is he pupped or is he 53?
I'm 53ing him for now. Like, that's a definite potential for a conversation coming off the ACL and MCL tears. But as of now, I'm 53ing him and assuming he's back within the first few games of the regular season.
Okay. So, and then O'Neal, Brian O'Neal. Yep, Brian O'Neal, Darrisaw. And then the other names on this list here in terms of offensive tackles, primary position offensive tackle, would be Justin School, Walter Rouse, Marcellus Johnson, and then Logan Brown, who is actually regarded as maybe the top UDFA of all positions across the entire league.
So Justin School for sure, and he is the insurance on Darisaw. So I think he starts training camp as the first team left tackle. In fact, he was the first team left tackle through all of the OTAs and minicamp practice that I saw. Walter Rouse is the backup right tackle. So, and then after that, I believe I kept no one else as far as the tackles go.
Yep. So Marcellus Johnson, he gone.
Correct.
Logan Brown. It's possible that a team could maybe claim him off waivers, but he would be. You'd love to get him on the practice squad if you could. Okay. Yep. Oh, I forgot about Leroy Watson the fourth. Apologies to the Watson lineage
too. I cut him too. And to your point on Brown, I do think that Brown is a wild card to make a run at a job. Like, I could see that.
But it might take an injury or something. It's a pretty
correct.
It's a good group. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, let's go to we'll go to interior offensive line here. So I'll put the centers and the guards together because right now it's funny because Ryan Kelly is actually the only listed center on the roster, even though they've got some other guys, and he's injury prone. Yep, Juergens, but Juergens is technically listed as a guard on the roster.
Yes.
So we're gonna go Ryan Kelly in, Blake Brandel
in.
Okay.
Backup
as kind of your primary. Yep. And then obviously, our guy Donovan Jackson,
starter.
Who I don't know why he's not even. Oh, you know what they have? It's funny.
Offensive lineman. Yeah, it's weird. He is OL. I don't understand why.
Yeah, did they forget to put him on the roster? They have Zeke Correll and Donovan Jackson listed as OL on their official roster here.
Zeke's not going to make the team. Just
Naga.
Not going to make the team. Donovan Jackson will make the team. Also, spoiler alert.
And then, Will Fries, we're going to throw him on there. He signed a nice little contract. So that leaves us with Michael Juergens, Vershawn Lee, Joe Huber, Henry Bird as the remaining offensive linemen.
Juergens is a lock as a backup guard and center. And after that, I think I cut the rest of them.
But that's 9. That's 9 offensive linemen.
Yeah, and you know what? No, I kept 11 on the initial one because that's what they kept last year. So who am I missing then? So
Darisaw, O'Neal, School, Rouse, Kelly, Brandel, Jackson, Fries, Juergens. Makes it 9. 11 would be pretty steep for that position. Usually it's like
might be right.
9 or 10. Well,
you know what? Yeah, I think you're right.
And we'll sort through the math afterwards to make sure that this is all.
I hope it works now because my math is on. You know what? This is the problem. You guys have been mocking me for so long. Last night, I took a deep breath and I said, "I'm going all technology. I'm going all technology."
I'm sorry. We were wrong.
I doubled down. I should have had it on Notepad.
By the way, Judd,
on a notepad.
I typed in your address into Excel Energy. There are 18 customers impacted in your area, and it says estimated time of resolution would be 1:30 p.m. today.
Oh.
What happened?
What happened? There's a big power outage over there.
Boy, yeah. So this is going to be a grind for Judd's camp notes here today. I do feel like the math, you said 24 offensive players on the initial math. I'm counting 23 here, so we may have to revisit this. We'll come back. Let's do the defense here, and then we'll come back and figure out who we forgot to put on the 53-man roster.
Just quickly, did you put Ham on as a fullback?
Oh, yeah, good call. Okay, CJ Ham would make it 24.
Back, but he's a fullback. Yep.
So okay. 24. So Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason, CJ Ham, and then from there we can figure out if they keep another running back. Okay, so that's 24. I'm going to put him in the running back category. And now we get to the 26 defensive players.
Okay.
All right. From Judd, an unprecedented look at Judd's kitchen, at another part of Judd's house. The only people who have ever seen this part of Judd's house are his wife Dawn and MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, which we'll talk about later this week. But this is, folks, this is unprecedented territory here.
Some birds chirping too.
Oh, it's nice outside. It's a great day. It's not a day that you would expect your power to go out. Like if I was to put odds on it, I would say no, not today.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, let's go to the down linemen. So the defensive linemen in this sort of hybrid 3-4 scheme. Jonathan Allen, one of the new acquisitions in. Javon Hargrave. So I'm going to throw him on here. And Harrison Phillips, obviously, right? So that leaves us with, I'll throw a few names at you. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, draft pick out of Georgia.
Makes it.
TID, as we call him.
Yep, makes it. He is a draft pick. At the end of this exercise, and there obviously weren't a lot of them, I did not have the Vikings cutting a 2025 draft pick. So I have him making the roster. I think there's a little bit of pride here too, because when we get to through this, there's going to be one guy left from the 22 draft. So yeah, I think he makes it final roster.
Wow. And the spoiler alert there too. Love that. Jalen Redmond.
Yep. Slammed up. They love him. I think they signed him to an extension. Impressed. So yeah, he is going to be, I think, a major part of the rotation that we talked about last week as far as it being bulked up. So he makes it.
Okay. Levi Drake Rodriguez and Taki Taimani.
Okay, so this is a tough one. Taki Taimani is a 2024 UDFA. Levi Drake Rodriguez is a 2024 seventh round pick. I think it could go either way. For now, I kept Taimani and cut Rodriguez. But I could see that being a coin flip and really judged on who outperforms whom in training camp and the preseason.
Okay. And then Elijah Williams, Alexander Mush Williams, who are both from kind of smaller schools, Morgan State and Middle Tennessee State, undrafted free agents. And then the only other one here would be a Jonathan Harris, the veteran, and Travis Bell from Kennesaw State. They're a second year in the NFL.
Again, I reflected the amount of guys that they kept a year ago. And so, yeah, I cut those two guys. I cut the last four names that you read. And so I believe off the top of my head, I kept something like six. And that's so I stuck with what their blueprint was for last year.
Love this. Okay. Let's move to the edge portion here. I guess technically they'd be classified as outside linebackers on this Vikings.com roster. So AVG, the Gangster, for sure. You down with AVG? Yeah, you know me.
The Gangster, the Dallas Turner, those three guys are obviously all locks.
Okay, and that leaves then Bo Richter from Air Force, who showed some flashes. He makes it.
Special teams guy. He is big. I think he might be Heath Farwell 2.0.
He looks like Heath Farwell.
He's the type of guy who's just gritty and gets in there and plays special teams well. He's the type of guy that you want in your locker room.
Yeah, no, he flashed a few times in training camp and just he was a high energy, high motor guy, as you would call him. Okay, Gabriel Murphy, Gabriel Murphy was one of the 2 or 3 most highly touted UDFAs last year. Vikings got him. Mm-hmm. He was running with the ones in training camp the first week at times, and then got hurt, and his season kind of got derailed. So Gabriel Murphy.
I have him being kept. He has shown when he's gotten a chance to play, he has shown enough that I think that he's going to prove. Now, I guess the big question for him is, can you stay healthy for an entire season? But yes, I believe he was the last edge rusher I kept from the group that you're going through.
Yeah, and well, another one that I think is right on that fringe, and maybe it takes an injury, is Tyler Batty from BYU, Chaz Chambliss from Georgia.
Yep, I cut those two guys.
Okay, and then I think that's the list of edge rushers here. So
yes,
but it's a good group. I mean, obviously you have Dallas Turner as like a top 20 pick in the draft last year, not starting for you, and Gabriel Murphy, who was highly touted. So the depth you have up front and along the edge is very, very good and better than it was a year ago. And so that means 5 edge rushers and 6 defensive linemen to make 11. Does that sound right?
That sounds exactly right. Yeah, and I would say this about that grouping. Murphy is probably the guy on the edge. Like if Batty has a great training camp and Murphy does not, Batty could be the guy. I think the other ones, including Richter, are locked in.
Okay. How's the phone battery doing? Can you see it there in the top left?
No, it's doing well.
We're doing okay?
No. It's doing fine. Fortunately, the one thing I do right is I charge my phone constantly. So I'm like a really weird phone charger person.
And it's saving this episode right now too. The foresight of the sports dad to always have his phone near 100%. Okay, let's go back a little bit to the linebackers.
Okay.
So Blake Cashman is in. Ivan Pace Jr. is in for sure.
Yep.
And I'll throw a few other names at you here. Eric Wilson, who you've touted, former Viking second stint. He's in, special teams guy. Also could get some run with Brian Flores defense. Max Tooley from BYU. Excellent mullet in his profile picture. Dorian Mousy from Auburn. Kobe King was another highly touted young player from Penn State. Kobe King, okay.
He's a draft pick again, and he is a guy who I think can for sure contribute on special teams. But you are going to read a name of a guy that I think is out because they don't trust him to play linebacker. And I think Kobe King is a Brian Flores guy. So I think Flores saw things on film as a linebacker that he likes in Kobe King.
Austin Keys out, and the name you're talking about here would be Brian Asamoah.
Yes, sir. I think he's out. I think he's out because if you go look at his snap count on defense last season, they don't trust him to play at all on defense. And Kobe King, my guess is that he'll start out playing a ton of special teams, but he'll also be trusted a little bit more eventually to play linebacker. And Brian Asamoah has turned himself into a really productive special teams guy, but make no mistake, Eric Wilson takes that place.
Yeah, and also if that's kind of what your ceiling is at this point as a third, fourth round pick, and your contract is coming up, you're about to be a free agent, they're not going to pay you to stick around. They're looking for your replacement. Those fringe roster guys or those special teams guys that don't really get run on offense or defense, Asamoah, Ty Chandler, they're looking for your replacement. And looks like they found it in Kobe King. Okay, so that would be 4 linebackers, right?
Yes, I believe that's 4 linebackers.
And that brings us to the secondary. Yeah, we'll go to the secondary here. Let's start with cornerback as we fill out Judd's 53-man roster 1.0. Mekhi Blackman in, right? So I'm just going to go through these. These are kind of listed alphabetically. Byron Murphy Jr., who was 3rd in the league in interceptions last year. Nice little contract extension. Isaiah Rodgers from the Eagles in. Jeff Okudah.
In. He was running with the first team nickel more than anyone else in the 7-on-7 drills, which were essentially the highest pace drills in minicamp. So I've got Okudah in. Now, could he lose the job in training camp? Absolutely. Could they go out and get a veteran? Absolutely. But Okudah right now, to me, definitely in, and also can play, if it's required, some special teams, which he did, I think, a bunch last year with the Houston Texans.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is Jeff Okudah, of the 9 or 10 guys in that cornerback room, at least with the 90-man roster here in the offseason, Jeff Okudah is the second longest tenured guy in that room, behind Byron Murphy Jr., who's not that old either. It's a young room. I mean, Murphy is 27 and is the elder statesman in a room of 10 guys. So it's a stark contrast from previous years where you've always had that buffer, that Stephon Gilmore, that Shaq Griffin, or going back to our guy from the Cardinals went to them and blanking on him. Hall of Fame cornerback, Patrick Peterson.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, what about Ambry Thomas?
I did not have him making it. Now
5-year veteran out of Michigan.
Yeah, and easily could be a practice squad guy. So, because you can now have X amount of veteran guys on your practice squad. I did not have him on the initial, at least 53-man roster.
And then I'll throw two names at you. One that flashed last year, another one that is flashing in the early stages this year. Dwight McGlothern and Zemiah Vaughn, undrafted free agent out of Utah.
Oh, I love this one. So Dwight McGlothern was a UDFA a year ago who made the 53, and they still like him a lot. He makes it. But you just hit on a guy who had a great mini camp, and if it continues into training camp, I think he becomes the Dwight McGlothern of 2025. I have Zemiah Vaughn making it for now.
Wow.
They have shown they are not afraid to keep UDFAs, which is great because we can certainly talk about some previous drafts that have not done great, but they have actually capitalized on the undrafted market pretty well. So yeah, Zemiah Vaughn is my biggest surprise, at least now, based on what we saw in minicamp and OTAs to make the roster.
Love that. By the way, I may have disrespected. What position is Tevier Thomas, the 8-year veteran? Is he's listed as a defensive back?
He's a cornerback, and I had him as my last guy in because I think he can play special teams as well. So
Tevier Thomas is in.
Yes,
he's
in. But that's a very borderline one. That's a close call one. Like if he could be outperformed, but as far as like the veteran guys go, who can also play special teams, and they do like those depth veteran guys. He was my last cornerback in.
And so that means that Reddy Stewart and Khalef, is it Halassi, and Keenan Garber would all be scrapping for practice squad jobs among that cornerback room.
Correct. But throw those three. So throw Thomas, Halassi, and the first guy that you talked about who had played 5 years. Aubrey Thomas? Is that his name?
Ambry Thomas. Ambry Thomas.
Yep. My apologies. But throw those three into like a stew as far as the last corner to make it. I just picked Tevier Thomas for now.
That's fair. And then that brings us to the safety group here, where you got potential Hall of Famer Harrison Smith. You've got Josh Metellus, Theo Jackson, all of them in. And then two other guys here, Jay Ward, who we've been talking about now for 3 years, doing Jay Ward things. So all four of those guys are in. Yep. And that leaves, is it pronounced Michelle Powell, undrafted free agent out of Miami, out as the odd man out in that technically 5-man safety grouping.
Yep. So I went with them keeping 4 safeties. They kept 5 a year ago, but right now I don't see a 5th. And so the one place I juggled from how they ended how they had the 53 going into the Giants game last year was I gave them 1 extra corner and subtracted a safety. That should get you to 26 defensive players.
Let's do the math here. All right, so we have 24 offensive. And again, this is Judd flying blind here. Judd without a compass. This is just Judd's camp notes, top of the head here, going through his 53-man roster 1.0 without any power in his house. And the math is correct. 26 defensive players.
Wow.
All right. There we go.
We
go.
Wow, dude. Specialists. So we've got a couple battles going on here. So kicker is Will Reichard. He's the only kicker at camp, right? So he's good to go here. The punting battle. So Ryan Wright, and do they have technically another punter on the 90? No, he's on injured reserve guy, Oscar Chapman.
Oh no, he's exempt. So he played. He punted at Auburn, but he's from Australia, I believe. So he is in the. I don't know what the spot is, but it's the international spot that they give a guy with a practice squad exemption. So as of now, I just went with Reichard, DePaulo, and Wright. I think Oscar Chapman has a chance, but because of his special circumstances, I need to know a little bit more about the faith there because he could basically just be kept regardless. So I don't know. I keep every year. I'm like, well, Wright's not fantastic, and he could lose his job, and I think he could. But because of Chapman's circumstances, for now, I'm keeping Wright, Reichard, DePaulo.
Wow, there it is, folks. There's your first glimpse.
53.
And it's not a prediction. It's a promise.
It's not a prediction.
It's not a threat.
That's
it's a spoiler.
Spoiler. That's not a prediction. That's a spoiler. There we go.
It shows you the thing that I thought was an interesting exercise about this, though, was this. It shows you how few spots are really up for grabs.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I guess when you solidify 5 starting offensive linemen in the offseason, or three new ones, there's so that in terms of starting battles, there's no quarterback battle. That you've got your 2 main running backs. There's no battle for who the top 2 receivers are, or the top 5 offensive linemen, or the top 2 tight ends. Like, all of the battles are for like 3rd string fringe roster spots, which is also fun when you're out there and because there's some good prospects on this list, and even some players that aren't making the team. We talked about Trey Stewart, the running back from Jacksonville State, that put up like 1,600 yards. I mean, there's some fun fringe roster players to follow from now until week 1. I do have a hot take here. It's Hottest Take Monday off of your 53-man roster projection, presented by Standard Heating and Air Conditioning, Dex.
Yeah, so you can go to standardheating.com to find out more about your HVAC and air conditioning needs. They can help you out. You don't have to worry about DIYing this type of stuff. Let the experts handle this type of stuff. And it's warming up a little bit, right? You want to make sure that air conditioner is working appropriately. You don't want it to go out on the fritz. You got to make sure that the techs there at Standard Heating can make sure it's in good condition. So contact Standard Heating. Tell them that Purple Daily sent you. And yes, they love to power our hottest takes every Monday here on Purple Daily.
Okay, so here's my hottest take. Now that you've laid this out for us and we can stare at it, and if you do need a hard copy, I have one for you now.
Oh, very nice. From now on, it's all on tablets for me, and I don't mean computer tablets.
I'll make some copies in the office for you. So here's my hottest take, and I have not combed through all of the other 31 rosters in the NFL. But this is just kind of anecdotally following the league closely. I think the Vikings on paper have one of the 3 best rosters in the NFL. And there's a caveat here that quarterback is the most important, influential position, and they don't have one of the top quarterbacks yet. Maybe someday. Cross your fingers, Vikings fans, they will. But if you're looking at just 1 through 53 position groups, I think the Vikings have one of the 3 best rosters in the NFL. And you could debate a couple of the other ones. The Lions have an incredible roster. The Eagles, even losing some pieces, have an incredible roster. But if you start to go through, like, all right, offensive weapons, how many teams in the NFL? Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, Josh Oliver as a second tight end and a blocking tight end, with Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason. You might only be able to put up a fight. The Lions would say, well, with our 2 running backs, and we've got a tight end also, and a couple receivers. The Eagles would come in and say, well, we've got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, and we've got one of the greatest running backs of all time, Saquon Barkley. Of course, I'd come back and say, yeah, but he carried the ball 400 times or whatever it was last year and is likely to drop off physically. So I think offensive weapons, they're in that fight for number 1. Pass rush, this was already schematically and personnel one of the best pressure defenses in the league last year, and you're adding Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, Dallas Turner a year older, Gabriel Murphy a year older. So, like, that's in the mix for top pass rush grouping in the NFL. Offensive line, you probably already had the best offensive tackle combo in the league. You added one of the best, when he's healthy, centers in the league, and you added some young talent at right guard and left guard with your first-round pick. Plus, Blake Brandel, who was a starter, moves to backup. Like, you've got dudes who've played in the league as backup swing guys. And the secondary is probably the thinnest group on the field. But you have a future Hall of Famer maybe in Harrison Smith. Josh Metellus, who's proved to be one of the most valuable defensive players in the league back there. Byron Murphy Jr., one of the most versatile cornerbacks in the league. 3rd in the league in interceptions last year. And some other young talent that we just talked about. So my hottest take is the Vikings have one of the 3 best rosters in the NFL. There's some teams with better quarterbacks that position outweighs maybe a weaker roster, and I'll grant you that. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think playmaker-wise, it's right up there. To your point of Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, the 2 running backs they have. Like, playmaking-wise, I think it's huge. It's rest of the state of the offensive line after their tackles, and if assuming Darrisaw is good to go week 1, those guys just have to stay healthy. I think if they are healthy, then that offensive line shoots right up there. But I do think there's some question marks just around the overall health of that line. But I would, even though without the quarterback question answered, I think roster-wise, it's definitely up there. It is certainly up there as a top 5, top 10 unit easily in the NFL.
I'd have to look at more of the rosters currently, but I think if you take health out, because health's a concern, offensive line, like Declan said, it's a concern interior defensive line. But if you take that out and just look at the quality of players, yeah, I think the Vikings are up there. It's interesting because you might have a couple of the top ones in your division. Like you've got, now I'm not going there with the Bears. Hear me out, okay? So it's not a Bears thing. But, Detroit, now Ragnow retiring at center is a big blow there.
It is.
Like don't sleep. If the Vikings had Ragnow and he up and retired in May, this would be a primary discussion point and a big concern. And I don't care. Well, we've got another guy. I've seen this before. Your center is your touch tone, right? Like that is a huge thing. And in fact, when we do my my top 20 most important Vikings, Ryan Kelly might be surprisingly high because I think the center position's imperative. Green Bay's a nice team, but yeah, I think you might be right. Like I think if you strip out the importance of, well, we've got quarterback X and you don't, I mean, the Bengals defense still looks bad, but they got Joe Burrow, so you can't write them off immediately. But that being said, yes, I think if you just look at the 53, if you just look at the starters, it's top 5.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's and that's not quite a scintillating take. You guys think we're in the ballpark there. Top 3. Baltimore has a nice roster, and I think you can look at the skill position groupings and make a judgment on the roster because those are the guys that everyone has heard of in fantasy football and whatnot.
Right.
But it's
right.
It's the trenches that drive winning in the NFL more than anything else, along with quarterback. And the Vikings have done a great job just addressing those problems the last 5 or 6 months or so. Hey, bravo to adaptable Judd Zolgad here, folks.
Wow. Yes. Gutsy.
That's right, folks. I got you.
This
Phone
man will go
halfway charge right now. That's not too
okay. So we may not have enough juice for like Flagrant Howls and the Scorner Twin Show, but we can
I think I can
we
get
can
through
discuss.
the Twin Show.
Okay.
Or I can get through the next show. Whatever we record next, I'm confident. After that, probably gonna fire up some juice for this thing a little bit at least.
Okay. Well, we'll circle back and take that conversation offline here for.
I like that. I like that.
But yeah, but this man will stop at no lengths to bring you insider reporting and entertaining Vikings content. This is Purple Daily, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before Judd's phone dies. We'll see you guys tomorrow.